Why did the river refuse to let Amanda die? A spiritual tale of redemption. What if a father loved his child so much, he remarried just to find someone who could care for her, only to be pushed into the abyss of tragedy by that very love? And what if a baby, thrown into a river in what seemed like a final goodbye, could return not to take revenge, but to forgive? This isn't just a family's tragedy. It's the heart-wrenching awakening of a man once blinded by love. Back when the forests were still green and the birds hadn't yet tasted city smoke, there lived a man named Victor in a small riverside village. He wasn't wealthy, but everyone admired his tireless work ethic and the warmth he poured into loving his wife, Grace. They were the kind of couple people looked at and whispered, "That's what love should look like," not because of riches, but because of the way they looked at each other, as if the world disappeared when they were together. When Grace became pregnant, Victor was overjoyed. He sang every day. One morning, villagers even spotted him standing in a field, grinning like a child, imagining what it would be like to hold his baby. But fate, always a cruel playwright, had other plans. Grace died giving birth. The village doctor could only shake his head. A baby girl cried her first cry, but the father's silent sobs, choked and raw, shattered the hearts of everyone around. The child was named Amanda, the name Grace had chosen before she passed. To Victor, Amanda wasn't just a daughter. She was the last breath of his wife's soul made flesh. He adored her, obsessively. Some nights, he would stay up just watching her sleep, his eyes shimmering as if he were seeing Grace live on in every fragile breath Amanda took. But like every fairy tale cruelly interrupted by reality, someone new entered the picture. 6 months later, Victor shocked the entire village. He remarried. Her name was Patricia. A stunning stranger with deep, dark eyes and alluring brown skin. She came like a gust of wind, seductive, yet unsettling. Many villagers murmured, "Grace's grave isn't even cold, and he's already moved on," but Victor only repeated one reason: Amanda needs a mother. It sounded reasonable, but it ignored a painful truth: not everyone deserves to be a mother. At first, Patricia acted kind, gentle, even holding Amanda with trembling care, as if she were trying to learn. But within weeks, the mask slipped. "This brat cries like a wild cat. Do you think I married you to play nanny?" she screamed one night when Amanda wouldn't stop crying. Victor, still clinging to hope, just forced a smile. He didn't want to face the truth that Patricia didn't love Amanda. Maybe she didn't even love him. Then came the fateful day. One sunny afternoon, Patricia invited Victor for a walk by the river, saying the fresh air would help Amanda sleep. Trusting and simple-hearted, he agreed. Nothing seemed off when Patricia offered to stay behind with the baby while he picked some herbs nearby. But the moment his back was turned, she acted. No tears. No hesitation. No conscience. She carried baby Amanda to the river's edge, and threw her into the icy waters. That river didn't just carry away a tiny life. It swept away Victor's innocence. His faith. His heart. And he never even knew it. Worse still, Patricia rolled in the mud, scratched her face, and when Victor returned, she screamed. She slipped. I tried to hold on, but the current was too strong. Victor wailed like a wounded animal, collapsing on the grass, his cries merging with the crashing waves where no one could tell the difference between wind and grief. But there was one witness that never forgets: the river itself. The river, once thought to be Amanda's grave, was about to become the keeper of truth. If you're still watching this, please comment. I'm still here for Amanda. Her journey is far from over, with twists you can't imagine. And if you want to know whether true love can bring back a forsaken soul, stay for the next part. You might have thought this tale ended in tragedy. That the baby was gone forever, swept into oblivion. But some souls refuse to die. Some cries, though faint, can shake even the most unaware hearts. And some rivers don't just carry water. They carry the truth. After that cursed day, Victor was no longer the man he used to be. The man who once sang under moonlight, who once held his child with joy, was now just a breathing shell. He ate in silence, worked like a ghost, and sobbed in his sleep. As for Patricia, she wept when visitors came, but her eyes turned icy when no one was looking. She thought Amanda's death was her victory, her total control over the house. But then, the crying began. At first, it was faint, like wind brushing the rooftop. Patricia jumped from bed, flung open the window, no one there. The next night it was sobbing. Quiet, but clear. As if it echoed from beneath the floorboards. She roamed the house with a lantern, searching. No one saw anything. But she did. By the third week it was wailing. A child's scream abandoned in the woods. Each cry felt like claws raking through her brain. She couldn't sleep. Couldn't turn off the lights. Victor. He heard nothing. In his heavy sleep, only chaos and Grace's face visited him, his wife who took all his joy with her. One night, Victor sat by the river, the place once filled with memories, now haunted by pain. He sat there, the cold breeze brushing his graying hair like a ghost's hand. Then, the crying came again. Not in his mind. Not in a dream. But from beneath the water. He turned sharply, no one. But under the moonlight, something shimmered in the water. He lunged forward, scooped it up. It was a tiny brass bracelet. Amanda's name engraved. A gift Grace had made before giving birth. His hands trembled. The keepsake he thought was gone forever, had returned. Right to the spot where he now sat. As if, a message. A call. A cry asking to be heard. Back home, he placed the bracelet on the table. Patricia, darning a shirt by the fire, looked up with a fake smile. "I'm sewing for you. Why do you look so strange?" Victor didn't respond. He quietly set the bracelet in front of her. "I found this, by the river." Patricia froze. Her eyes darted just for a moment. Then, cold and composed, she replied, "It's just a child's thing. Someone else probably dropped it. Don't let your grief drive you mad, Victor." Victor stared deep into her eyes. Something had shifted in him. No longer a man in denial. No longer blinded by love. But a soul beginning to question, to awaken. The next morning, Daniel, Victor's childhood friend, showed up. "Victor. Are you blind? What baby drowns in broad daylight like that? Doesn't anything seem off to you?" Victor exploded. He punched him, screamed. "You jealous because my wife's prettier than yours? Get out." Daniel left, his face bloodied, but his eyes weren't angry. Just sad. "One day, the truth will slap you in the face. And I won't be there to catch you when you fall." And that day came sooner than Victor ever expected. One afternoon, Victor went to the river, the same river that had once been the grave of his daughter. But this time, a little girl was standing there, waiting for him. She looked about 5 years old. Deep brown eyes like ancient wells, tangled curls, ragged clothes. She looked up at him and softly whispered, "Mister, I'm lost. I don't remember my name." I don't remember my parents. I don't even know who I am. Victor froze. His heart pounded like an echo from a past life. He didn't know why, but something in her eyes made it impossible for him to walk away. Have you ever looked into a child's eyes and felt like you were staring into your own soul? Not because of how they looked, but because a missing piece of your spirit, something you thought was gone forever, was quietly staring back at you. That was exactly how Victor felt standing before the little girl by the river that day. She was barefoot, her sun-browned skin streaked with mud. Thin and frail like a spring branch, but her eyes, oh, those eyes. There was nothing childlike in them. You don't remember who you are? Victor asked, voice trembling. She nodded, her eyes red. I just remember water. And a whisper, like a mother's voice. Then I kept walking, and I found you. Victor knelt, placing a hand gently on her shoulder. A strange, unexplainable sense of knowing made his chest quiver. Are you hungry? Cold? The girl shook her head. Calmly. Almost eerily serene. I just want a place to stay. I don't want to be lost again. Victor didn't need to think. He reached out and took her hand, a tiny, warm hand, like a memory come to life, and led her home. From afar, Patricia saw them. Her eyes narrowed, sharp and cold as a dagger. Who's that? What the hell is this? Victor answered softly. She's lost. I couldn't leave her in the woods. She needs a home. Patricia smiled thinly, but a storm brewed in her chest. From that moment, hostility ignited, though no one spoke of it. Victor named the girl Esperanza, meaning hope. From that day, the once somber house quiet as a tomb filled with life again. For the first time in years, Victor smiled at the dinner table, chatted more, and sometimes even hummed while working on the porch. And Esperanza, or rather, whatever lived within her, began to sow the seeds of strange happenings. No one could explain it, but after the girl's arrival, Victor's garden began to flourish. Tomato vines, wilted for 2 seasons, bloomed and bore fruit within a week. The hens started laying eggs daily, large, round ones. Old villagers began whispering, "There's something magical about that child," as they passed Victor's home. But Patricia? She found no magic in it, only menace. One night, while Victor was mending a tool, Esperanza quietly approached. She sat beside him in silence, then said gently, "I don't want you to call me Esperanza anymore." Victor looked up, surprised. "Why, sweetie? That's a beautiful name." She met his eyes, kind, but distant, like a memory echoing from a past life. "I want you to call me Amanda." Victor's hand dropped the tool. It hit the ground with a hard, hollow clink, like a bell breaking time itself. He stared at her. His mouth opened, but no words came. "What did you say?" "Amanda," she repeated. "That's my real name." Victor didn't sleep that night. He sat by the fireplace, the small brass bracelet engraved with Amanda resting in his hand, the keepsake he'd pulled from the river. Now, it felt like the final puzzle piece falling into place in a cruel cosmic game. Could it be? Could Amanda, the child once declared dead, now be alive, breathing, and forgiving, under his own roof? The next morning, while Patricia was sweeping the yard, Victor told her about the name change. But before he could finish, Patricia screamed, "No. That thing is not Amanda. She's a demon. She came here to destroy this family." Victor looked at her, not with fear or deference like before, but with doubt. "I'm not sending her away," he said, calm but firm. "Until we find her real parents, she's my daughter." Patricia gave a bitter laugh, but her eyes were venomous. "Then I'll make sure this house is no home for her." If you're still following this story, leave a comment. Amanda is still alive, because this little girl is more than a character. She's the symbol of resurrection, of buried justice, and of a soul returning to reclaim her light. Have you ever lived in a house with warm meals and laughter yet felt like you were sleeping on a minefield? Where every step, every breath, might set off a hidden, horrifying truth? That's what Amanda, or rather, the child named Amanda, was facing every day, under the same roof as Patricia. Patricia wasted no time delivering on her threat. She turned the house into a quiet hell meant just for Amanda. Meals. If Amanda sat at the table, Patricia refused to touch the pots. Sleeping space. She'd splash dirty water on Amanda's mat by accident, of course. Every passing encounter came with a muttered curse, like a knife to the soul. "You little demon, you liar. Where did you even come from, huh? Why are you here? Why?" Victor noticed. But he didn't step in fast enough. He thought the child would be strong. What he didn't know was Amanda wasn't just enduring it. She was remembering. One night, in the dim kitchen, Patricia muttered to herself, "This is my house. Mine. That girl doesn't belong here." Amanda stood quietly behind her. Not angry. Not crying. Just, speaking for the first time. "You're wrong," Amanda said. "This was my home, before you came." Patricia froze. The words rang out like the temple bell at dawn, firm and cold. Her hands shook. The cup she held fell and shattered. From that night, strange things began to happen. At night, Patricia heard whispers in empty rooms. "Don't be afraid, the truth is coming." She saw Grace, Victor's late wife, in the bathroom mirror. Not speaking. Just watching. With eyes full of endless sorrow. In daylight, as she sewed, her needle pricked her hand not once, but 7 times. As if an invisible force was guiding her to bleed. Victor was no longer blind. He began to doubt. He saw Patricia's coldness. He saw Amanda's quiet endurance. And in Amanda's eyes, he saw something no child should carry. So, he went searching for the one person he had once driven away from his life, Daniel. Daniel lived on the edge of the village, near the old field where the two of them once spent long afternoons fishing with Grace. Victor approached slowly, each step heavy with guilt accumulated over years. "Daniel. I was wrong." Daniel was sharpening a knife under the old mango tree. He didn't look up. "Only now you realize that." Victor bowed his head. "I wasn't just wrong about you. I was wrong about myself. About my daughter." Daniel stopped. He finally looked up, his eyes red-rimmed. "Then why are you here?" Victor whispered. "I think Amanda is still alive." Daniel sat in stunned silence for a moment. "What? I thought she was dead?" "You screamed in my face that I was jealous of your wife, remember?" Victor nodded, throat tight. "But now, this lost little girl appeared, 5 years old, and she calls me Dad. Then she asked me to call her Amanda. And everything's changed since she came." Daniel stared into his friend's eyes. The anger was gone. Replaced by worry. "Maybe that girl isn't ordinary. We need to see the old seer. She lived deep in the forest, known only by one name. The keeper of the river's secrets. and it was she who would pull back the final veil from the past. Have you ever believed that a river could remember? That its waves don't just carry mud and stones but whispers? Buried sins. Forgotten truths. As Victor and Daniel entered the tangled woods in search of the woman the villagers feared and revered, they weren't just chasing answers. They were unearthing their own past. The path to her hut felt like a trail erased by time. Trees pressed close, winds howled like curses from another life. Dry branches snapped beneath their feet like brittle bones. Frightening and yet inviting. And when the old wooden door creaked open, she was already waiting. No words were spoken at first. She simply stared at Victor with eyes deep as abysses, as if she had seen his past long before he arrived. Victor stammered. I came about my daughter. Amanda. The old woman didn't ask, who? She didn't pretend to be surprised. She simply nodded. The child has returned. But not to live. She came to awaken. The words sent chills down Daniel's spine. Victor swallowed hard. You know? Please, who is she? Is she really Amanda? The seer inhaled deeply, her fingers tracing an old, worn rosary of dark wood. Then she spoke, slowly. Go to the river. Before the sun rises. Bring a piece of white cloth pure, like an untouched soul. Stand before the water. Call upon the mother of the river 3 times. Offer the cloth. And, wait. No more questions. No protests. They understood. Some truths lie beyond logic, they can only be touched by faith. The next morning, as the sun just peeked above the grass blades, Victor stood before the river. The wind was still. The surface of the water, smooth as a mirror, reflected the image of a weary father, eyes swollen but filled with resolve. He knelt, raised the white cloth, and cried out 3 times. Mother of the river. Mother of the river. Mother of the river. And then the water stirred. From the heart of the river, as if split by a divine hand, a figure emerged. A woman with hair white as mist, surrounded by shimmering light. Her voice echoed like monsoon winds. Victor. I have been waiting for you. He collapsed in a deep bow, fear forgotten, replaced by only one desperate cry from his soul. Is that child my Amanda? Did I abandon her? The goddess did not scold. Did not smile. She only replied. Yes. She is your daughter. Grace's blood flows in her veins. But she did not die. Victor looked up, lips trembling. Not dead? But Patricia, she. Her voice grew heavy. She threw Amanda into the river. But I caught her. For the river knows the innocent. And a child's soul must never be destroyed by a jealous woman's hatred. Victor broke down, sobbing. His body shook. 5 years of guilt came crashing down like a flood. It was my fault. I was blind. I left her in the hands of evil. You were not evil. You were just blind. The river goddess stepped closer, light glinting around her like a halo of morning dew. But now, the girl has returned. Not just as your daughter, but as your purifier. Purifier, of what? Victor asked, voice breaking. The goddess answered. You will know. When truth is revealed, the darkness within you will dissolve. But remember, do not let Amanda fight alone. And then she vanished. As if she had never been there at all. Only gentle ripples remained on the river's surface. Like the quiet applause of divinity for a father who had finally awakened. When Victor returned home, his eyes were no longer the same. He wasn't just a grieving father anymore. He had become a guardian, one who would protect his child not only with love, but with the truth he had denied for far too long. If you're still following this journey, ask yourself, what's more terrifying, a demon disguised as the living, or a child returning with a betrayed soul to demand justice? Inside what used to be a warm, peaceful home, a little girl named Amanda was about to uncover the grave of the past. Patricia stood before the mirror, her trembling hands stroking her hair. She was no longer the proud woman of years past. Sleepless nights, mysterious cries, Amanda's unsettling gaze like hundreds of snakes slithering through her mind. She could feel it, something was about to explode. That afternoon, Amanda walked into the living room, where Patricia was silently sewing an old sleeve. The air felt heavy like the stillness before a storm. Amanda stood tall, staring directly at the woman who had once thrown her into the river. Patricia. Her voice was deep and unwavering. Patricia spun around, her face darkening. What do you want, you little demon? Amanda stepped forward, speaking as a grown soul confronting a deceitful child. I want the truth. The truth. Patricia scoffed. Who are you to demand truth from me? Amanda clenched her fists. Fire lit in her eyes. I'm the child you threw into the river. The one you thought would never return. The daughter of Grace, the woman you envied so much, you tried to erase her from my father's life. Patricia froze. Her entire body locked in place. You're saying? Yes, Amanda said, stepping closer, every word like a blade. I am Amanda. In that moment, time stopped. Sunlight poured through the window, slicing across Patricia's face, stripping every mask away. Then, she screamed. Not the scream of someone caught, but the scream of a mind unraveling. No. No. You're not her. You're a curse. You're the punishment I deserve. Patricia flailed, smashing a chair, ripping her blouse. Victor ran in from outside, witnessing Amanda stand like an old tree, strong and steady, while Patricia screamed like a soul on fire, beyond redemption. Patricia crawled to Victor's feet, her voice raw and broken. I'm sorry. I did it. I threw her into the river. I couldn't bear to see Grace's eyes in her. I just wanted to be loved. I just wanted you to look at me like you looked at that dead woman. Victor couldn't speak. The truth he had run from now screamed in his face. But Amanda did not cry. She simply turned away, as if forgiveness was the highest form of revenge. Patricia suddenly stood and laughed maniacally. You think you've won? You think just because you survived, you can take everything back? I won't let you live. I'll make sure. Enough. Victor's voice thundered. For the first time, he looked at the woman he once called his wife, and saw nothing but a shell of envy and cruelty. Patricia, it ended the moment you threw Amanda into the river. That day, you buried yourself. Patricia stood stunned. Her eyes cracked like shattered glass. Then, without another word, she turned and ran, like a ghost setting itself ablaze in the darkness. That night, Victor held Amanda close. Do you hate me? He asked, eyes wet. Amanda shook her head, resting against his chest. I'm just sad you stayed silent for so long. There was a time Victor believed love could fix everything. That if he just loved someone hard enough, long enough, they would change. But truth is colder than a riverbank at midnight. Loving the wrong person can be the fastest road to hell. Patricia vanished into the night like a nightmare that dissolves with the sunrise. No one knew where she went. No one asked. Even the villagers who once watched Victor walk silently behind his second wife did not bother searching. They all understood. Those who live in lies don't deserve a farewell of pity. As for Amanda, the 5-year-old girl with eyes like deep wells, she was no longer the lost child from the forest. She had reclaimed her name and her father. But was that truly the end? One quiet evening, Victor was stoking the fire. Amanda sat beside him. The flickering flames cast their shadows of a man who had lost everything, and a child once denied her right to exist. Suddenly, Amanda spoke. "Dad, do you ever wonder why I survived?" Victor turned, startled. A simple question, yet as deep as an abyss. "My child, I still don't understand. Was it a miracle? Was it the river goddess? Or was it destiny?" Amanda gently shook her head. "It wasn't just rescue. It was a choice. I was chosen to return." Victor sat stunned. A shiver raced down his spine, not from fear, but awe. "You were chosen? By whom?" The girl didn't look at her father. She lifted her eyes to the star-filled night sky. "By the prayers my mother whispered before giving birth. By the soul of a woman who loved you to her final breath. And by the river. Not to bury the betrayed children, but to keep them safe. Until the day they're ready to come back." Her words lit a fuse deep in Victor's memory. He remembered Grace's eyes before she entered the delivery room. He remembered her last whispered words. "If I don't come back, promise me our child will live a life better than ours ever was." He had broken that promise. But Amanda never gave up. The next morning, the villagers came to Victor's house. They brought fruits, offerings, and words of apology. An old hunched woman gently took Amanda's hand. "Please forgive us, child. This village turned its back on you when you were harmed. But now you've returned, as if the gods themselves sent you back. We bow our heads in shame." Amanda simply smiled. There was no bitterness. No tears. Only a quiet grace that moved the adults to weep. Victor stood behind her, watching his daughter like a fragile sprout pushing through the soil after the longest winter of his life. He understood. Amanda wasn't just his child. She was a symbol. A living testament to the truth that truth can be buried, but it never dies. And when it returns, it doesn't scream. It smiles. But it makes the world bow down. When a storm passes, people usually count fallen trees and torn rooftops. But few notice the seeds it carried away quietly sprouting somewhere else. In the house once steeped in tragedy, something sacred was blooming again. No fanfare. No parades. Just a father and a daughter learning to live again. After Patricia's departure, no one spoke of her again. Victor, now a changed man, began to clean the house as if purging its past. Every tile, every step, every rusted nail, he scrubbed with his own calloused hands. Amanda helped. Though she was just a child, she never complained. One day, Victor tried to stop her. "Let me do it. You don't have to clean the house that once mistreated you." Amanda only smiled. "That's exactly why I want to clean it." Under their hands, the house began to transform. The old, weedy yard became a small vegetable garden. The wooden chair where Grace once sewed diapers was now Amanda's spot to learn to write. Victor replanted the mango tree in the front yard, Grace's favorite, as a silent vow. With every fruit it bears, may my daughter grow in light. In the evenings, they ate dinner together. No more arguments. No more hidden tears under the table. Victor would often tell stories of the past, his younger days, falling in love with Grace, how they once dreamed of having 3 kids and a coop full of chickens. Amanda listened intently. Then one night, she softly asked, "Dad, if Mom ever came back, would you recognize her?" Victor froze. His heart clenched. He set his chopsticks down, studying her face. In those eyes, there was still something of Grace. He answered slowly, "If your mother was reborn, maybe she already passed me by and I didn't even know it." Amanda smiled faintly. "Then if I were Mom, would you forgive me for leaving you?" Victor was stunned. A long pause. Then he reached out and hugged his daughter tightly. "If you were Grace, I wouldn't just forgive you. I'd thank you for coming back. In any form at all." The next day, something strange happened. Victor went out to till the field and saw that the crops, long dead from the previous season, had sprouted again. Not just one row but a full line of vegetables, rice stalks, even the old orange tree behind the coop, all had come back to life. He ran inside, breathless. "Amanda! Amanda! Did you do this? Was it you?" She stood in the garden, arms lifted toward the morning sun. She smiled, her eyes glowing like dew. "It wasn't me, Dad. It was your faith." From that day on, people came to Victor's home more and more. Not just to buy clean vegetables or ask for heirloom seeds. They came to sit on the old stone bench by the porch, where little Amanda, only 5 years old, told stories like an elder who had lived 100 lives. Once, the village chief jokingly asked, "Where did you learn all these things? Did your mom teach you?" Amanda replied in a soft, mysterious tone, "No one told me. It's just, when I was under the water, I heard a lot." Everyone chuckled. But some shivered. Victor didn't laugh. Because he believed her. He had seen the river goddess. He had heard the cries from hell. And now, he was seeing a miracle living inside his daughter. People think sunset is a time for rest. But for souls who've been betrayed, it's the time when truth finally speaks. As for Patricia, the woman who sacrificed an innocent life for a hollow kind of love, it seemed she had vanished forever into the dark. But like all buried sins, they always return. One crescent moon night, as the village slept, Patricia came back. Her hair was wild. Her clothes in tatters. Her eyes blank. Her lips murmuring endlessly. She no longer looked human, but like a puppet possessed by something dark. She didn't knock. She kicked the door open. Like a storm tearing into the heart of a campfire family. Victor jumped up, shielding Amanda, who was asleep. What are you doing here?" Patricia laughed. Not the laugh of a sane person, but the shriek of someone standing face to face with her own karma. I came to take it all back," Patricia screamed. Amanda stepped out, unafraid. She stood quietly, clutching a worn-out stuffed bear, her only keepsake from before she was thrown into the river. "There's nothing left for you to take, Patricia," Amanda said, her voice gentle but sharp as steel. "This house was never yours. This love was never yours. And my soul, you can no longer touch it." Victor grabbed a kitchen knife and raised it. But Amanda stopped him. No, Dad. Darkness doesn't deserve blood. Let me speak to whatever part of her humanity is still left. The little girl stepped forward, looking into the eyes of the woman who had once sent her to die. Not with hate, but with an almost otherworldly understanding. You were afraid of being abandoned, weren't you? Amanda asked. Patricia froze. You were scared he'd leave you if his daughter stayed. Scared he'd love the dead more than the living. Patricia's voice cracked. I didn't want to kill you. I just wanted him to look at me the way he looked at Grace. Tears fell. No one knew whose they were. Amanda bowed her head, whispering, You were wrong. But I don't hate you anymore. Because if I did, I'd become your shadow. Suddenly a soft, glowing light filled the room. No one saw where it came from, but it seemed to calm the darkness in Patricia's eyes. She collapsed to the ground, clutching her head. I'm not worthy. I don't deserve forgiveness. Victor stepped forward, placing his hand gently on her shoulder. None of us are perfect. But if you're brave enough to face your sins, you've already begun to redeem yourself. That night, Patricia wasn't cast out. She was taken to the small shrine at the edge of the village. A place where the lost, the mad, and the broken came to fast and repent. No one knew if she ever healed. But from that night on, the midnight crying stopped. Amanda still woke early, as always. She sat by the well, scrubbing rice jars and bamboo canisters. As if she knew that forgiveness isn't the end. It's a new beginning. Some children are born to live ordinary lives. School, play, growing up, building families. But others are born to change the fate of those around them. Amanda, the girl once thrown into a river, was now the flame warming a village that once turned its back on her. Since Patricia's departure, everything changed. As if the world had finally shed a long, suffocating burden. Victor rose early, watered the garden, swept the yard, and cooked breakfast for Amanda. He was no longer the man who hid in shadows, but the first father in the village brave enough to apologize to his daughter in front of everyone. And Amanda was no longer just the girl who survived. She had become the keeper of the light. More and more people came to visit. An old woman brought sticky rice cakes and said, I don't have much, but I hope this helps the child grow even stronger. A barren woman came asking Amanda to name her cat, because anything named by her will never be abandoned. Then one day, something truly strange happened. A group from the neighboring village who once held a bitter land dispute with Victor came to his door and knelt down. They apologized. Not for land. Not for grudges. But because one of them after a high fever had a dream of a little girl standing in the middle of the river, arms wrapped around herself, saying, I'd rather die than live with hatred. When he awoke, he asked the girl's name. And the answer was the same, Amanda. Rumors spread throughout the region. Amanda was no longer just a child. She was a soul returned from death here to teach the living how to live rightly. One afternoon, the village chief came to Victor's house. He wore ceremonial robes, carried drums, flowers, and a carved signboard. We've come to ask permission to name the main road of the village Amanda Street. Victor nearly cried. Amanda. She only smiled, her eyes calm, fully aware of what was happening, but without a trace of pride. The naming ceremony was held on the full moon. The entire village attended. They placed a small altar under the mango tree where Grace once sang lullabies to Amanda. Victor stood before everyone, his voice deep and steady. Today, I'm no longer Victor the failed farmer, the grieving man. I am the father of Amanda, the bravest girl I've ever known. And if I die today, I die happy. Because I once lived beside the light she brought into this world. The old wept. The young bowed their heads. And Amanda stood among them all, her small hands holding a white flower tightly, whispering, "Mother, I've lived the way you wished I would." That night, the sky was filled with stars. Victor sat on the porch, watching Amanda sleep. He remembered the question she once asked. "If I were Mom, would you recognize me?" Now, he didn't need to answer. Because he could see grace in every breath Amanda took. Not in reincarnation. Not in myth. But in love that had never truly left. If you're still here, leave a comment. My name is Amanda. Because it's no longer just the name of a little girl. It's a symbol for anyone who was ever cast into the dark, but had the courage to rise again with a smile, and a heart untouched by hatred. Have you ever had a dream so vivid that when you woke up, you had to touch your face to make sure it didn't actually happen? Amanda didn't just dream like that. She remembered. One night, during the first heavy rain of the season, while the village slept deeply, Amanda opened her eyes. She didn't cry. She didn't call for her father. She simply rose from bed and walked out to the porch, where raindrops ran down the newly revived banana leaves. Victor woke minutes later, a strange feeling tugging at him. He stepped outside and found his daughter sitting in the rain, gazing at the sky. "Amanda? Why aren't you asleep?" She turned to him, expression calm. "I dreamed of Mom." Victor froze. Did she say anything? No. She just sat there, on the stone bench beneath the mango tree. But when I got close, she vanished into the mist. Victor knelt beside her, voice cracking. "Would you like me to tell you about her? How she made scallion porridge. How she once knitted through the night just to give me one warm scarf during our first winter as husband and wife." Amanda nodded, soft as wind. "I want to remember her. Not through your words, but through my heart." After that night, Amanda began writing down her dreams. Each morning before the rooster crowed, she'd sit by the window, scribbling on scraps of paper in pencil. Victor secretly read a few. One made his tears fall freely. "Mom took my hand and led me across a wooden bridge. Below was clear water, but I wasn't afraid. She said, 'Keep walking, even if you can't see the way.' And as I walked, the water turned into light." Word spread through the village. Amanda can dream of the dead. The elderly, the grieving, mothers who'd lost children, fathers who had lost their way. All came to Victor's home, asking if Amanda could share a dream. One day, a young woman arrived clutching a photo of her son, who had died of malaria the year before. "Can she help me? I don't need much. I just want to know if my son hates me for not affording his medicine." Amanda said nothing. She gently took the photo, hugged it to her chest, and said, "Tonight, I'll try. Please leave the photo here." The next morning, Amanda handed the woman a note. "Mom, I don't blame you. I'm only sad that you forgot how to smile. I loved it most when you sang while cooking. If you sing again, I'll listen." The woman wept like summer rain breaking a drought. From then on, people called Amanda the Dream Weaver. Not because she was a psychic. Not because she had powers. But because Amanda made people believe in kindness again, believe that even after suffering, there was still a bridge back to peace. A small hand reaching through the fog, pulling them back from the edge. Victor watched his daughter like he was meeting her for the first time. Because Amanda was no longer the abandoned child. She was a lamp glowing in the dark. And that lamp never asked anyone to light it. It's time to end this story. But a story like Amanda's doesn't end with the end. Because she didn't live just to tell a story. She lived to become one. 3 years later. Since Amanda was called the Dream Weaver, the village of Rajendra was no longer the same. Fields once scorched and dead now shimmered green. They rebuilt the school and named it Amanda Primary School. At the village gate, they carved a girl bowing her head beneath floating lotus petals. Below her feet, engraved in gold, forgiveness is not about erasing others' sins, but saving yourself from being drowned by hatred. Victor aged. His hair turned silver but he lived in peace. Every morning, he still swept the yard, cleaned Grace's altar, and watered the old mango tree, now heavy with golden fruit each season. Beneath its shade sat the stone bench, where Amanda still wrote her dream journals. But one July morning, as the light was still pale, Victor searched the house and Amanda was gone. On her bed, only a small folded note remained. "Dad, if I don't return, don't be sad. Not everyone stays in one place forever. But if you miss me, sit beneath the mango tree. Close your eyes. And think of laughter. I'll always be there." Victor was speechless. The entire village searched. Every path, every bush, every bend of the old river. No one found Amanda. Not a footprint. Not a trace. Only a white lotus blooming. Right at the riverbank where they once thought she had died. Even though it was not lotus season. The people wept. Victor didn't. He sat beneath the mango tree, closed his eyes, and smiled. Because he knew his daughter never really left. Years later, children still played by the riverside. Some said, "We saw a girl with long hair in a white dress waving at us, right before it rained." The adults laughed it off. Only Victor, when he heard it, would quietly wipe his eyes. Yes, her name is Amanda. She's not gone. She's just helping another child learn how to forgive. And so it is. A child once thrown into a river, once abandoned, once cursed, returned not to seek revenge, but to become the light that guides others home. Thank you for joining us today. If Amanda's journey touched your heart, we'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment. My name is Amanda, to honor all those who've survived the darkness without becoming it. What lesson did the story leave you with? How will you carry it into your life? Your voice matters. Your reflections bring light, healing, and courage to us all. If this story moved your soul, please like, subscribe, and share, to support more stories that awaken the heart. Thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next story.